Good day, YouTube. Today is the 22nd of February, 2021. Yep, it is 2/22/21 today. This is my shop truck, my 66 F100. Picked it up, I think just a little over a month ago. Drove down to Klamath Falls, Oregon in the snow. Drug this thing back. Of course, I had to winch it up on a trailer. It was kind of a non-runner. Got a number of videos on a playlist on my channel. Please scroll through those. You can see this thing from the beginning to where it is right now. And my whole idea of this truck when I wanted to purchase it, after I purchased it, was that let's just do a budget build. Keep the dollars down and the fun up. I want to leave it a patina truck and so forth. And for the most part, I have done that. But now we've got to the point where it does run and drive. It still has a few issues, and we have plans to sort those out. The biggest issue that it has right now is when I drive it, and I think I mentioned it in a video possibly too, it seems to have a lot of drivetrain noise in it. And put it up on the lift the other day after another drive, I could kind of listen to where this is coming from. It seems to be basically rear end related. So I've spun the wheels and the axle bearings sound growly. The third member, it's a 4.9-inch. The third member seems a bit growly, and there's a lot of slop in the ring and pinion. That's not exactly something I'm very interested in taking on. I could probably get it done, but setting up a rear end really should be done by someone with some experience if you're going to make it last long term. And if the ring and pinion in this are wore out, let's just replace it. It's a 370 gear, and I wanted to drive it enough to know that I wanted to either leave that gear ratio or change it. And I think it's a pretty good happy medium with the tire size I have on it. Power off the line versus get it out on the freeway and drive it. I think it's a pretty good gear for this truck for the way I'm going to use it. So if the ring and pinion are shot, let's just replace the ring and pinion. So I have an appointment here in a couple weeks at a local shop where I've been using, that my family's been using, where work's been using for my whole life actually. So they just do a great job. And it's Snyder's and Sons alignment and brakes, and they just do practically everything there. If you're interested in Albany, Oregon, I just highly recommend them. Eric and the crew down there, and especially the older stuff. My step van, I'm sitting beside my 67 Boyertown step van. They took care of me real good on this, getting the brakes all working and all with budget in mind and so forth. And this thing, for old hydraulic brakes that are non-power brakes, this thing stops real good for a big old truck. So I just trust them to take this on. So got an appointment, and we'll get that in there and get that done. Other than that, it's a bunch of little stuff. Something that bugged me when I bought this, I showed up at the guy's house and I opened up the door, and somebody put a velour seat in this thing. And I'm like, it's a upholstery. It's the correct seat, I believe. I go, well, that's just out of place, especially for me. It's a shop truck, not a. I mean, if this was a fancy, all painted up and chromed out, yeah, that'd be a nice looking seat in there. But it's not for me. I looked it up, and the correct, run the VIN. I looked up the VIN. The interior of this was everything that they put in. It was to be red. So the steering column is red except for that new collar on the shifter. Of course, it had a black floor mat in it, and it would have had a red seat. So it's going to have a red seat, and it's actually going to have a red and white seat. And I did order a upholstery kit for the seat this week or yesterday, and it's on its way. Also ordered red carpet for it. And so I think today is the day we start taking the interior apart. I have already posted a video, by the time you're watching this one, of repainting the bed, which is just about done. We'll get a second coat on it later today, and that video will post. And now it's time to dig into the interior. So I think the next course of action here would be to pull this seat out of here, get what's left of the rubber mat out of here, start preparing the floor for paint. The floor is in great shape. Someone has drilled a couple holes in it, which was very popular to do, especially trucks that sit around outside. So what water does get in here does drain out. So we might just, put a little something over that to plug those holes. And then we'll get some sound deadener in on the floor and in the ceiling, which will sand off that surface rust and paint the ceiling up in there. Probably remove what's left of that, at least that piece of the headliner. I might leave those corners in place. And I'm not sure what we'll do for a headliner. Maybe nothing for the short term. But for now, we'll get that done and get the sound deadening in there. We're going to use that stick-on ductwork insulation, by the way. You can get it at your Home Depot, Lowe's kind of deal. And one thing I do want to do is repaint the steering column and steering wheel, which I've decided to do in place. It means a lot of masking off and so forth, but that's all right. I'll drop the tack and my little horn button off the column, and we'll clean all that up and prime it and paint it in place. And take my steering wheel wrap off of it, and we'll put that all back on a little later. We'll get it all sanded down and all that stuff done. The doors I started to clean up. Not done with them yet, but they're cleaned up pretty good. Kind of leaving the patina. I do not have these door hinge block off plates, so at least for this side. I have them for the other side. So I'll have to source a couple of those. That shouldn't be too hard to find. I think they were the same from like 60 to 66, something like that. Could be wrong, but I think just all the same. So I guess without further discussion, let's get this seat out of here and get that mat out of here and start thinking about getting the interior done while seat cover and carpet are being shipped. The carpet I expect to have in about 4 or 5 days, so it'd be nice to have it done by the time the carpet arrives. All right, we got the seat out and the mat out. What was left of the mat out. I taped up the seat belts. They're Chevrolet seat belts, but it might be better than nothing. 1967 was the first year they were required. This being a 66, they weren't required, so somebody has put them in. I'm probably going to just leave them tie wrapped up behind the seat or something. But I'll probably leave them in there in case I really need them for an event or something. So I think the thing to do is I know it's really hard to see. Hang on a second. I'll get a light. Let's see if I can glue that piece of insulation back that's kind of folded over there and keep it intact. And then we're going to take this big old wire brush on the angle grinder there and go after this floor. Keep the dirt and stuff kind of brushed out and get the whole thing prepped, and we'll be wiping it down. We'll we'll see what we got when we get done. We might need to put that rust converter on here and then hopefully get the whole thing in primer. We're just going to paint up to the tank. I'm not going to repaint the tank. Not going to repaint the back. It's good enough. But I do want to paint the floor good, and then we're going to see about some sound deadener. There was a little moisture under that rubber mat. If you guys are still running a rubber mat, I highly recommend you take them out because they sure trap the moisture. I've had a truck in my garage over a year, and then finally took the rubber mat out, and it was wet underneath. It did not seen outside in more than a year, and it trapped that water in there that long. So that was a bummer because it sure rusts them out. Okay, so let me get started and I'll bring you back when I got something to show you. Well, gang, got it all brushed out, and then I took a bucket of soapy water and a sponge with a scrubby on the back and just scrubbed this thing out best I could. Again, make a mess on the floor, but that's life in the shop, isn't it? So it actually cleaned up really good. I've got a heater in here warming it up to dry it off and to warm the metal up as well. I don't know, it's around 2:30 or something, and I normally call it a day around 6. So I'd like to get it in primer before I leave. Yeah, I think I can do that today. Get it in primer before I go. I use one of them little rollers and probably a little brush to get in the areas the roller doesn't fit. Should be able to knock it out in 30 minutes or so. I think I'll do everything including the sill plates up to the tank, but not the tank. Let's let that go. It's in pretty good shape. So that's the update. Next time you see this, it'll be in primer, and then tomorrow it'll be dry, so I'll have to figure out if I want to paint it. It depends on what I want to accomplish tomorrow. I still want to go after the steering column and the steering wheel, but I don't wish to pull the wheel off. Typically they're fairly stuck, and sometimes you do damage. You get like one shot at it, so as long as I don't have to pull it, I probably won't. Alright gang, we'll catch you a little bit. Alright, we got her primed. What do you think? Looks pretty good. Look pretty good. Plus you're getting all this old upholstery out and stuff, you know. It takes those decades of smell out of it, get everything all sealed up, all new again. Yep, done this to many old trucks over the years, just the same way. Love the Rustolium, you know, it's relatively inexpensive, like 29 bucks a gallon. And it goes on good, it sticks good, adheres good. We're going to paint this white tomorrow, and then we're going to put some sound deadener over that, and then hopefully by the end of the week carpet will be here, but probably seat upholstery won't be. And I know we got a little work to do on the seat as well. You can see that support right there is broken, so we'll pull this upholstery off and weld that back together. I know the bottom of the seat's kind of broken down as well. I'm not sure what we'll do with it. I don't want to raise the seat because it's already too high for me. But again, I don't want it to look lopsided either, so we'll have to do something with it, but we'll get to that. Alright, I'll bring you back tomorrow. Alright guys and gals, it is the next day. The primer on the floor has dried for the most part. I stuck a heater in here this morning. And what's on the agenda for today? What would be nice to get done would be to go ahead and convert the rust in the ceiling and get it in primer today. Probably go ahead and pull the back part of the headliner out. And that gets the roof of this thing ready for sound deadening. And then it would be nice to prep and prime and paint the steering column today. That would be really good. And then at the end of the day, it would be nice to paint the floor. So if we could get all that done today, I think that would be a really good day. So let me show you what I've picked up this morning. Alright, I stopped at our local Dollar Tree and got these 4-foot by 72-inch tarps, so I can use them as drop cloths, reusable drop cloths inside the cab. I also got this thin, lightweight drop cloth material. It's 9-foot by 12.7 mil. And while I was wandering around, I thought I'd try these as Scotch-Brite pads. A couple of them, you know, they're $1. And then off to Home Depot I went. I've kind of eyeballed this here a couple weeks ago. And this is 15 feet of 1 foot wide, 1/8 thick, self-adhesive duct insulation. We're going to use this for sound deadening on the floor and hopefully today in the ceiling. So I just got one roll of it for the moment. Going to see how it works. I also got, this is $20 a roll. And this is a roll of Reflectix. When I did a bunch of research for like vintage trailers and my step van, what kind of insulation you use in the walls and so forth. This comes up a lot. I didn't end up using it on my other projects, but it is pretty decent stuff. It is a thin insulation, foil back, so it's really good for reflecting heat and so forth. If you're doing a small space camper, truck camper, canopy, tiny house, that kind of thing, you might consider this stuff. It's about $16 for a roll. How big is this? Oh yeah, 16-inch by 25 feet. So my thought process was to put this down first, because you kind of want something to stick, be glued to the metal, because it helps deaden the sound. And then it helps with the heat and so forth. And I thought I'd put this over top of this in some areas, like the transmission tunnel under the seat, that kind of thing, where you didn't want super thick insulation. So yeah, so that's what I've got. So I think we'll get started. So for the best use of time, I think I'll get the headliner piece out of here and get the rust converter going on the surface rust in here, because it'll dry in a couple of hours. But while that's drying up there, I can be working on the steering column and go ahead and get that prepped and in primer. And then while that's primer's drying, we could get in and get the roof of this place with some paint on it. I probably won't. I don't know. We'll see what happens. I don't know if I'll do Rustolium primer and then wait till tomorrow to paint it, or just try and get it painted today. We'll see how it goes, see how the time works, and then we'll go from there. All right, here we go. All right, working on the steering column right now. Got it all in primer after an hour's worth of prep or so, and getting everything masked off. Highly recommend Rustolium primer for stuff like this. It's going to come out real good. I did not take time to fill the cracks in the steering wheel. It is old, but it's only got like one crack on each spoke, so it's going to be good. I got to see if I even have any red. I may have to go get some, but it's about 1 o'clock, so that's kind of the progress we've made today so far, I guess. So let me let that dry. I don't want to work in there while I got that. I got a couple of things I can do so I don't bump into the wet paint, but it's real important to me to get that all painted today, so that'd be good. So let me see if I got any red paint. If not, I'll go get some. I'll bring it back when we're shooting some red color on that old steering column. Real red Rustolium. Let's get this thing painted. We're going to do this in 3 or 4 real light coats. Got you in the best spot I can get you without getting paint on the camera. All right. Alright, I'm going to paint for a while. I'll bring you back, give you a close-up. Alright, we've got a painted steering column and steering wheel, and it looks good. Now how close I can get you in here. Trying to get some light on the subject for you. Again, you saw what we painted it with. We prepped it, primed it with Rustolium primer, and shot it with Rustolium Regal Red paint. I had some cherry red paint here at the shop, but that was just too bright, so we went and got some Regal Red. Alright, we're making progress today. This is big. I really wanted the red steering wheel to pop against the white dash and all that jazz. So I have this roof prepped. I did the rust conversion. I'll show you what I used. This is the rust converter that I used, called Rust Sergeant. It's made right here in Oregon where I live. And I've done other videos with this. This is where to get it if you're interested in it. But only if my camera will focus. There you go. Center Point, Oregon, and a website coming up. VintageJeeps.com and G503.com. Okay. I bought like 4 gallons of this some time ago because I was always needing it. So I think that's what it took to get free shipping. And I am pretty cheap. Back inside, I think the next thing to do would be to go ahead and clean out the floor again, and get the ceiling painted white Rustolium again, and the floor painted white Rustolium again. Oh, by the way, I just used a little cheap, like a 3/4 inch wide brush to hit that rusty spots. And that rust converter, you know, encapsulates the rust. It turns it black into a paintable surface. It's a primer. Doesn't really work good to put it on paint. It's not what it's designed for. So avoid that. And you can see I just kind of brushed it on where it needed to be, and especially down the front side. So, yep, we're good to go. So we're going to get this cleaned out on the inside now, and start painting the floor so that tomorrow everything will be dry, and we can start putting sound barrier, sound deadener in it. Alright. Gosh, look at that steering wheel. Good day, YouTube. Today is the 23rd of February 2021, and we're still working on the 1966 Ford F100. It's my new shop truck. We're getting a lot of interior stuff done. We've got some stuff coming. The question kind of arose in my head, what am I going to do for an audio system in this truck? It does not need a high-end pounding audio system. Quite honestly, the toy that this truck is to me, really the noise I'm probably going to be listening to more often than not is going to come from that. I have driven many 100 miles without ever flipping the radio on, so it's not horribly important to me to have a really pounding audio system, but it would be nice to have a radio. If you recall, I'm sorry I got it all masked off, but there was a massive hole in the dash that went and made a gauge cluster for. It was the only way to really plug that and make it look good. So that poses a question, and there are lots of options. What are we going to do for a radio? Okay, we're on eBay right now, and have a look at this. This is called a Panasonic Cockpit RM-310. Panasonic made 3 versions of this, and if you're not sure what this is like an overhead console radio. So one end, or the end of this overhead console, actually has a dome light, and an amplifier, an equalizer, and an AM/FM cassette. So this end would be, you know, towards your rear view mirror, and the light portion would be, you know, towards the middle of the vehicle or the rear behind your head kind of deal. as a dome light. And it's actually got a couple ways to turn that dome light on. So this one says 4 parts or it's not working. And they want $1,000 for it on eBay. That's a buy it now. And it doesn't work. Very interesting. Then what in the world is this? Nope, I didn't buy it. But I did buy one, and I did buy one many years ago, actually. I picked one up at a swap meet locally, again, many years ago. And this, again, Panasonic Cockpit. They made 3 models of this being the earliest. This one has an amplifier built in. The next 2 models did not, so you had to put your own external amplifier in it. Is this going to be super high quality sound? No, probably not. But it should be good enough for my needs. And I can throw a cassette in it, or Bluetooth adapter, FM modulator. You can kind of make these things work for modern day stuff. And mostly, probably what I'll want it for is be able to Bluetooth it. And there'll be a way to accomplish that. I haven't even figured out where I'd mount speakers yet. But we're going to try to get this thing mounted as an overhead console in the truck. And now's the time to do it, because I'm starting to think about getting insulation in the roof and getting all that jazz done. So I need to figure out how I'm going to mount this. So for now, I've got this piece of plywood, 1/2-inch plywood, kind of sitting there. I've drilled a couple holes in it. I'm going to fiddle around with mounting. I won't bore you with the details, but I'll bring you back and show you how I end up mounting it. I did cut that 1/2-inch plywood or 3/8 or whatever it is, about 36 inches long, so it'll go all the way from the front to the rear. So here we are in the truck. So right about where the rear view mirror is, I'll tuck it at that board up there, and probably put a couple screws through there. And then on the back side, I might flatten out that flange a little bit and put a couple screws up through the wood there. The radio itself's not completely flat. It actually comes down a little bit in the front. I'll have to figure that out as I go, and I have to figure out what I'm going to do for a headliner anyway. But for now, in a separate video, we're cleaning up this cab. I'll get some paint up there, and then we'll put some sound deadener in there, and then we'll get that radio fit. So we're not going to end up with a cookie cutter truck. Anyway, it's going to be my own deal. And it will be fun to have things that you just never ever see. And you'll never ever see one of these probably in a Ford pickup. Although I say that and somebody out there will have one. So that'd be awesome. Let me know that you do. I understand that these came factory in a couple of sports cars. Probably from the late 70s. I'm thinking it's a Lotus and maybe something else. I think and I knew at the time I bought this, that they're fairly sought after, from the sports car folks that don't have room for a radio in the dash, and would give them an attractive overhead console. So anyway, this is what we've got, and I'm going to fiddle around with the mountability of this thing. And then I'll bring you back when I got something to show you. Well, I do love it when a plan comes together. So, pretty good day today. We got the floor prepped, and we got it primed and painted last couple days. We got the roof done. The whole idea is that something to protect it from rusting, and something to stick the old insulation to. Which we've got. That's all we're going to do. So, tomorrow we'll kind of start the installation and fix that process. But I think for now we'll end this video here. So I appreciate you watching. Appreciate the comments. Let me know what you're working on. I appreciate listening to your guys' projects and any ideas you have. It'd be awesome too. So with that, give me a thumbs up on the way out the door. Subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll catch you on the next one as we continue on the interior.